I never quite knew when I would make this video. And the reason I say that is because it's not typically a video I enjoy making. Also because there are certain factors in this video that talk about my own personal life, and I question heavily whether or not that was something I wanted to do. And the reason this Fall Guys gameplay is in the background today is because it's a very depressing topic, and I think with depressing topics such as the one I'm going to talk about, there are certain things that are maybe cheery or cheery looking that I think could also become therapeutic in some sort of in this sort of scenario. So hence the Fall Guys gameplay, because it is a very cutesy looking game, and I think, it'll kind of cut the tension, or a lot of the tension that this video does offer. So I hope it does kind of help that. I mean, that's the thought process I had in making this video, but we'll see. But today's topic revolves around the topic of death. Now, I think I, like everyone, has felt or had some sort of brush with death in terms of maybe a family member passing away, you yourself being in a near-death situation. Who knows? I don't know your situation. You don't know mine. But I've always had this strange fear of death. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a fear, as maybe more of a fascination. Now, it's very strange considering I fear and am fascinated with death at the same time, because, I mean, let's be honest, I've talked about it in previous videos. At one point in time, I did actually want to commit suicide of my own life, because I felt like aspects of my own life were not worth living. I don't know why I had these thoughts. I can't really pinpoint what exactly led me to feel this way, but it just led me down a very deep, dark, depressing rabbit hole that I'm glad I eventually got out of in a way, but, those thoughts always kind of come back, and it's like, God, did I really make the right decision deciding to keep going on? I don't know. I think it's always, and I always like to say, the world is the world is a better place because you're in it. I wouldn't necessarily say that about myself, because I feel as though the only reason I continue to keep on living is because I know my existence is in spite of other people who dislike me. So as long as I'm still here and they hate my guts, I'm going to just do that just because it spites them, if I'm going to be honest with you. But, or at least that's not the entire, but it is how I look at things sometimes, especially with how the world is becoming. You kind of question, it's like, God, is it really worth going on? And I've questioned the topic of being an alpha versus being a beta in the past. This is not necessarily an alpha versus beta discussion. This is more or less, because everyone feels these sort of feelings in some way, shape, and form in their own personal lives, one way or another, whether they consider themselves to be an alpha or beta or not, because we've all experienced some sort of trauma. I think my first real instance of this fascination or fear, whatever you want to call it, was, of course, when I, at one point in my time for several years, wanted to take my own life. And then when I was in 7th grade, my grandmother on my dad's side had passed away. And that was really the one time I've had other family members in the past at that point pass away, but I had never really remembered it too much. This was the one that I definitely do remember, because it affected me for quite some time and definitely did not help my mental state. That's definitely one of the moments in my life that kickstarted this incredibly depressing cycle that I've had for several years leading up to before I graduated college. And that didn't help when my grandfather passed away. Now, this is a different family. This is my dad's family that my grandmother died, and my mother's family that my grandfather died. My grandfather and I were very close. So you have to understand that his passing fucked me up in a way that I don't think death should ever really fuck anybody up. It just messed with me in a way that I never thought possible. I had already gained weight at that point, but I was gaining a fuck ton more weight than I was because I was depressed. I had no motivation to do anything. And this was the closest I'd ever come to doing anything in regards to taking my own life. Now, I say all this stuff about how I wanted to take my own life, but at the same time, I'm a bitch. And here's why I did it. This is where the whole fear versus fascination thing comes into play for me. So hear me out when I say all this stuff. The reason that this was a thing for me was because I have these, there are times where I can't sleep, and there are days where it's just like, you overthink when you're not able to sleep in hopes that maybe, because your mind is so active that it's like you're just wide awake. There were times, especially in recent years, where I'm like, what happens when I'm not here anymore? Say I make it all the way to the end, and I pass on my own terms. What happens after the fact? I don't see anything. I don't taste anything. I don't smell anything. I don't do anything. At some point in time, I'm never going to do what I'm doing right now. That fucks with you. A lot. So, I guess the reason why I never ever went through with it as much as I thought I would is because of the fact that it's like, this really, I don't want to get too religious because I'm a Christian or a Catholic, the whole heaven and hell scenario. Where am I going to end up? Now, I'm not saying I'm going to end up in heaven or hell, but my soul has to go somewhere, right? Or at least that's the thought process behind a lot of this. I have to go somewhere. But where am I going to go? What am I going to see when I'm gone? Is it just going to be pitch black? Or is it going to be like in other religions where I'm going to be reincarnated to something different? Or am I ever going to be around anything again? Am I ever going to see the people I love again that have passed? Like my grandfather, like my grandmother, like other people in my family who will eventually pass away, like my own parents? Like, that is something that terrifies me to this day. And this is where the fascination aspect comes in. I don't know. Any of us can go at any given time. I think 2020 proved that a lot, and as I mentioned in the past, where it was like, every fucking celebrities were dropping left and right. Obviously, coronavirus did there were a couple there were some hundreds of thousands, maybe a few million deaths from that. I wouldn't call it as awful as everyone was making it out to be, but there were people that were going to die. The people that died. You think about that, you think about your own morality, and it's like, holy shit. It's a scary thought. So I think that's why I was such a little bitch and I never went through with something like this, was because I didn't know what the fuck was going to happen. I think the reason why I never did what I did was because I'm just like, I kind of like what I'm doing right now. I don't want to go yet. I don't know what's going to happen to me. So, I'm not sure, man. I figured I'd just have this discussion with you guys because it's a very deep discussion. It's a discussion that questions a lot of things. Your spirituality, your religion, your, how you feel about death. People have different opinions of all this stuff. And I'm not going to say I'm overly religious but I do believe that something's got to be done with you when you're gone. I'm a very big believer in that sort of thing. Whether it's heaven or hell or some sort of afterlife, I don't fucking know. Hell, it could be like in the cartoons like Avatar: The Last Airbender. You go to the spirit world if you pass away. That's a hell of a lot of shows, even kid shows, deal with that sort of thing. So that's just the thought process I have, and I'm like, that's why I call my whole thing with death a fear and a fascination all at the same time, because I wanted to do it at one point in life, but the thought of dying scares the ever-living shit out of me. I think at some point when it comes to my own life, I'm eventually going to have to seek therapy for this, because, especially when I'm near the end, and I think a lot of us probably will, because when you're so used to being around on this earth for a period of time, you think to yourself, what's the worst that could happen, And then you start to think about it. It's like, well, am I going to see just black? Am I going to see that light at the end of the tunnel that everybody always talks about? It's a really scary thought. It's an incredibly terrifying thought. So, I don't know, man. I don't like to get dark on this channel, but I just figured that this was a topic I've been wanting to talk about for a long period of time, and I think now is finally the time for me to talk about it. I mean to do these videos as like some sort of discussion, like an educational type of discussion, not so much like a bringing you down sort of thing. I just want to, I kind of did this video as like therapy for my own self, You know what I mean? It's just like, what's going to happen? You know, what do you think is going to happen when you go? I don't know. No, I don't think any of us knows. That's why it's been researched by numerous types of studies. I'm not sure what exactly those studies may be, but you know, it is what it is. You know, that's all my thoughts about it. You know, I think this is a topic we'll eventually cover at some point in time, whether it's on the podcast, maybe again in the future. I don't know. It's something, like I said, it's something I am both fascinated by and that I fear all at the same time. So that's all I got for you guys today. I mean, my name is Ed0626. I was the first to be eliminated in this game of Fall Guys and in this final round. I never win a damn game with these things. I hope the Fall Guys gameplay sort of distracted you in a way from this highly depressing topic that I've been talking to you guys about. You know, something a little cheery with a child's game, more or less, definitely might help. Who knows? But I don't know. I just figured I needed something, you know, I don't know if it's a Call of Duty gameplay in the background that's really going to help get my point across, like a Fall Guys gameplay where it's like, oh, I need something that's not super fucking depressing, and that guy screwed himself over big time. But all in all, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today, and comment down below what you think about this whole subject. I'd like to get your thoughts on it. Have a great day, and peace out. Take care of yourself.